Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the live stream. I hope you're all very well this evening. Let's see who's on the stream tonight. We have Killer, thanks for coming on and moderating once again. We have Raven 1983 Witch, great to see you. FSM is the dog, FSM certainly is the dog. We have Lolfat, great to have you on. Oh, sorry, I'm off to a client, so I missed the stream. I'll watch it when I get home. Please do. Have a great session or a great meeting. We also have Derek. Great to see you, Derek. We also have on tonight Wayne. Great to see you, Wayne. John O'Sullivan. Great to have you on. Hope you're well. We have Enter the God. Great to see you. Massimo. Great to have you on too. We have Tiny Demolition Lover from Scotland. Great to see you. Draconic. Great to have you on. Hope you're well tonight. CGM. Great to see you. Dano. Great to have you on too. We have a super chat from Valerio. Thank you so much, Valerio. Hi, Max. I'm back to the UK. It's fresher than Italy. It's been quite warm here in Italy. I don't remember, Valerio, which part your family are from and you are originally from. But I hope it was nice. It's been very, very hot over the last number of weeks here in Italy for sure. It's a little bit cooler over the last number of days. The temperature has dropped somewhat from 35 down to about 31 degrees, so that's good. Still quite hot, but more manageable. So thanks very much for that super chat, Valerio. We also have on the stream tonight, let me see, Philip. Great to see you, Philip. Chatty Rat, great to have you on. Chatty, hope you're well. Nico, great to see you. Catherine, great to have you on. Hope you're well. We have, let me see, Giorgio, great to see you, Giorgio. We also have Alsiva, great to see you. Maria, great to have you on. Hope you're well tonight. Mitch, wow, we're up to almost 300 viewers. That's amazing. So I'll have to say hello to everyone very quickly. Buxton, I can see. We also have Ed Stacy, great to see you, Ed. So many on tonight. Katrina, great to see you. Another Derek, great to have you on. Sugar Free, hope you're well. Dara, Inconsequential, great to see you. Well, and so many on. Let me see. Night Raven, great to see you. Richard as well. James Taylor. No relation to Jeff, I hope. Ak is mad, great to see you. John too. Hope you're all very well. We almost got to 18 degrees today, Night Raven. Almost 18. Wow. Yeah, here I remember when I lived in Ireland, August was quite cool. Here in Italy, I couldn't believe it until, you had to wait until almost October when the temperature started to really drop. So I hope everyone is very well tonight. So let's start off with our first story here from The Independent. Says Boris Johnson news. Climate Minister Sharma admits having diesel car as PM denies rift with Chancellor. So this was from earlier today. Climate Minister Alok Sharma has admitted driving a diesel car just months before the COP26 summit takes place in Glasgow. The COP26 president made the admission on BBC Newsnight on Monday, later saying he does not drive the vehicle very much. He defended himself by telling the broadcaster that he takes public transport to and from work, and I can acknowledge that my next car will certainly be an electric vehicle, he added. His comments come a week after spokesperson Allegra Stratton said that she did not fancy an electric car just yet. Elsewhere, Boris Johnson's team has downplayed rumours of a rift between him and Chancellor Rishi Sunak over the weekend. It was reported that Boris Johnson was thinking of demoting Mr. Sunak to Health Secretary in a cabinet. is a poison chalice, that one. The Prime Minister's spokesperson quelled speculation on Tuesday, saying the pair had worked in lockstep throughout the pandemic and stressing that there are no plans for a reshuffle. I've always said that I believe Boris Johnson's greatest threat comes from Rishi Sunak. Many people have put it between Sunak and Michael Gove, but my money will be on Sunak. He's less tarnished than Michael Gove is. he seems more popular than Michael Gove is. So I think the Tories would prefer to have someone like Rishi Sunak instead of Michael Gove in charge. Let me know in the comments, guys, who do you think would be not better, because the two of them are terrible, but who do you think would be more likely to succeed Boris Johnson, Michael Gove or Rishi Sunak? I still think Rishi Sunak is, not just because he's the Chancellor, but because he's not very well known. The public don't know that much about him, which is normally good if you want to be... if you're going into a competition against somebody else. Now, at the top level, what I mean, he has a senior position, but he doesn't have a lot of baggage. He doesn't have bad approval ratings, I imagine. I think he's the wrong person to be running the country if he does become Prime Minister. Austin Allegra Stratton. Wait for September and then the end of furlough. Daily Blaze, great to see you. Or Daily Blaze, as you prefer. Rishi is a Diet Coke addict. Kendra, great to see you on the stream. Hope you're well tonight. Jeremy Hunt is a possibility. Yes, Jeremy Hunt is also in the running. I bet on Gove. He's more skilled at backstabbing. Perhaps, yes. But he's not as, I hate to use the word charismatic, but he's not as charismatic as Rishi Sunak, I think. But then I'm looking at it from the point of view of the public and not the point of view of the Conservative Party. So the Conservatives might prefer to have someone easier to control, or someone who they think is more on their side, I should say. Robert, good to see you on the stream. Hunt is a... Yes, I often ask that question. Jeremy Hunt is a big something. I think Gove would be easier to beat in the general election. Yeah, I think whoever they put forward is not going to have the appeal that Boris Johnson has had. Johnson won in 2019 on the back of Brexit, of course. Get Brexit done, and the public wanted that. The opposite, of course, was Jeremy Corbyn, and a lot of voters, even on the left, said we don't want Jeremy Corbyn, and they turned out and voted for Boris Johnson. Some people voted for him because he's a bit of a clown. So if you had Keir Starmer against Rishi Sunak or Keir Starmer against Michael Gove, I think Starmer comes across as more prime ministerial, and I think that would work in his favour. While for Boris Johnson, he's a bit of a clown, and I think people were still voting for him following the Brexit shenanigans, what happened with Brexit and with Donald Trump as well. This sort of idea of, let's just put in someone who'll rock the boat, who'll make the establishment uncomfortable. But I think we've moved on from that. We're a long way away from 2016. The Tories have got a problem. Crumble, thank you so much for that super chat. Super sticker, yay! GLHF. What does that mean? Can someone translate in the chat? GLHF. Gove is too confrontational, perhaps. My sister thinks Johnson is a good laugh. I hope she's laughing, or she finds it funny that there was almost 140,000 people dead. That's something to laugh about. I don't think so. But I understand why people think, it's good to have somebody who's a bit of a laugh at the top, somebody who's not going to take it too seriously. But the problem is that Boris Johnson treats it like an Eton debate session. He treats Parliament like it's just one debating club, and he's on the Eton team, or he's on his team within the Eton debating club. And it's all just a joke. It's all just an exercise in who can beat the other side. And in reality, people's lives are at stake. Good luck, have fun. Thank you so much for that, Crumble. So thanks for that translation. Good luck, have fun. I don't know why it is. I didn't know that one. Gov means Sheikhet rat in Old Gaelic. That's good to know. The UK is a laughing stock. I sense it's probably because of Boris Johnson, who's at the top. The clowns are in charge, so they're running it like a circus. Would you say Priti Patel is a dark horse for Prime Minister? She just keeps pointing. She could just keep pointing at people in dinghies, and the Gammons would love her for her stance on death penalty too. Yeah, but I don't think. See, the Conservatives may not want somebody like that because they're so polarizing. You want somebody who's not going to turn off the other side to an extent that it would actually encourage them to come out and vote against you. I think on paper she may tick the right boxes, but she doesn't have the charisma that you want as a prime minister. I don't see her, but I could be wrong. It could be possible for someone like her to, but she'd have to evolve as a person. I think I don't see her evolving, so I wouldn't put money on her becoming prime minister anytime soon. But stranger things have happened. It was the one I could afford. Oh, thank you so much for that. Oh, very kind of you, Crumble. You can also support this. You can also support the channel by just sharing videos on social media. That's a great way to support the channel as well. So let's move on anyway. Of course, talking about Brexit, we see that here. No, sorry, this one is a little bit old. Why do I have that one open? Sorry, I meant this one. So this one is why. Oh, one moment. I have the wrong link open. Whoops. Okay, sorry about that. So it says here, staff and material shortage slow in UK construction sites. Britain's builders struggling to keep pace with the demand for new homes and maintenance work in July as shortages of materials and skilled staff slowed growth. Actually, no, I did this before. Why? Oh my God. Tonight there's some confusion. Okay, sorry about that. So Vodafone, as I said in one of the videos I uploaded today or yesterday, I think it was, or maybe it was last night. Anyway, it was Vodafone to reintroduce roaming fees for UK customers in Europe. So provider joins EE as in bringing back charges for people to use their phone in mainland Europe from next year. So something the Brexiteers seem to have said about this is that it's them, just doing what they want to do. They have the freedom to implement this, so they have the freedom not to. And yes, but what you're missing here is that the EU banned it. So the EU cancelled all of these roaming charges back in 2017. So that was a benefit. The fact that a company can bring them back is not a benefit. It's the opposite. Max is on a roll. Okay, sorry. No need to rub it in. Okay. Come on, Max, get it together. So Vodafone is to reintroduce charges for UK customers who use their mobile phones in mainland Europe, despite Britain's biggest mobile companies previously saying that they would not bring back roaming charges after Brexit. Vodafone said new customers and those upgrading will have to pay £2 a day, pay up to £2 a day to use their monthly charge of data, calls and text messages in the rest of Europe. The company, which is following in the footsteps of BT-owned EE, after it made a similar announcement in June, said the charges would come into force next year. Now, this is not a huge amount of money we're talking about here, but it's still a cost, and it's still a cost that British people will have to pay that they didn't have to pay before. How is this a benefit of Brexit? And some people have raised the point, if you are a family, just say a family of 4, and you go on holiday for a week or 2 weeks, this is going to start to cost you a significant amount of money, especially if you're on a fixed income or if you don't have a huge amount of money set aside. But of course, this is something that you have to pay now that you didn't have to pay a couple of years ago, well, a year ago, while the UK was still part of the single market, still part of the EU in a sense, during the transition period. Roaming charge is another Brexit benefit, yes. I think Piers Morgan would be a better Prime Minister than Bojo. See, Piers Morgan is an interesting character because when he challenges politicians, he's paraded around as some sort of hero. But Piers Morgan is a horrible individual. There was the phone hacking back in the 1990s. There was the treatment of Diana when she was alive by the likes of Morgan and the news. I don't remember was it the Daily Mail that he worked for at the time? I don't remember. So they treated her like crap. And when she died, I think it was Piers Morgan was crying some crocodile tears about how he cared so much about her. These people made her life horrible, not for clicks because they didn't appear, they didn't exist at the time, but for newspaper sales. A picture of Diana in some particular pose or in some hidden from some hidden location would sell huge numbers of news in the Mirror. Okay, the Mirror today is not that bad, is it? I think the bar is set so low. We think of anything is better than the Express or the Daily Mail. Hedgehog Legs, thank you so much for that super chat. A beer for Discord later. Cheers. Thank you so much. Very kind of you. I love the little hedgehog. And a beer for yourself. Do get one. I hope to see you later on the street, on the post-stream chat. I think it was in the News of the World. Okay. The News of the World doesn't exist anymore, does it? Thank God. Roaming charges are the least the UK has. The Roman charge, but at least the UK has sovereignty, yes. And now sovereignty dust for the diet. It's a great. Boris Johnson is doing great things to deal with obesity. Making sure that the shelves are empty. People don't eat too much or don't eat anything. And it seems that the government is not interested in allowing heavy goods vehicle drivers to be added to the shortage occupation list. So they're completely against that. Piers Morgan is a snob. Max, on the video with John Bruton, I think you were right about the Northern Ireland Protocol. They want rid of the North. Yeah, John, I think it's a cost and it's a headache for Britain. They will talk up the unionist angle all the time. They say, yeah, we care about the Union, we care about Northern Ireland, we care about Scotland. But especially when it comes to Northern Ireland, there's no benefit for the Tories in keeping Northern Ireland. They don't have any presence there. If they got rid of it, it's less of a headache in the sense of a security check or money that has to be sent to Northern Ireland. And I mean no offence to anyone living in Northern Ireland. It's just that's the way that the Tories think about Northern Ireland. They were not huge fans. Now, John Major aside, the Tories were not huge fans of the Good Friday Agreement. They were indifferent in a sense to it. They saw it as something that Tony Blair was part of, and they were against that, of course. But when it comes to Northern Ireland, they would be happy to see it go. Less of a headache for them, and they can focus on just English politics mainly, and maybe Welsh politics. pierced organ. Pierced organ. Max, my sister likes your mankini video. What mankini video? I hope you mean somebody else. Mankini video. You're not talking about Sir Ronvanti, are you? So, say it quickly. Importing about 500 illegals into Dover each day. I seriously cost the country can't sustain. I'm not sure why I understand that comment. I'm surprised that Matt Hancock didn't snob up Johnson's job. Thatcher started the Good Friday process? Really? Northern Ireland loyalists and are loyal to England, but when England isn't loyal to them, go figure. Yeah. The issue of abortion is something that the DUP in particular don't like, and the rest of Britain wants to have reproductive rights for women, and the DUP don't. So when it comes to the issue of abortion, the DUP are not British. Robert, thank you so much for that super chat. The roaming charges will almost certainly increase well beyond the £1 a day. I remember how expensive it was pre-2007, and it was well above that. Yeah, I have a feeling too. This is just the beginning. Now, it is a little bit different from 2007. I think there's there's more competition, but there's also the possibility, yes, that it will be increased. Because that's what companies do. If they can get some more money out of you, they will. I remember, I think it was before 2007, or before 2017, I should say, when the roaming charges were cancelled. I think Ryanair were trying to sell cards on the phone, on the plane. I don't know if anyone has been flying with Ryanair. Thanks very much again for that, Robert. When you fly with Ryanair, they try, maybe they've stopped it now, but they try and sell you everything, or scratch cards and buy this and buy that. It's quite obnoxious. Bring back Gordon Brown. He isn't right, but yes, he might not be good looking, but he's got the job done. I think it was Mo Molan that started the Good Friday process under the Good Friday Agreement. Capitalism, gonna capitalism, even if the whole world burns, yes. The 6 Western Balkan EU candidates abolished roaming charges in their region on the 1st of July, so their citizens are also spared the expense, despite not being in the EU. So the UK could come to an agreement with European member states not to have roaming charges. But does anyone think that Boris Johnson's government would actually do that? No. The Good Friday Agreement. Good Friday Agreement was signed in 1998. So yes, it was started by the Tories, well, John Major in particular, and the Irish government and the European Union and the Americans, of course. We have to put them all together in this. But it was really pushed forward when Tony Blair came to power. It was really backed up by the British government at that stage, I think. It was supported. Okay, let's move on. So these roaming charges are coming back. And as you guys have said, it's likely that there'll be more costs as time goes by. Let's see if this works. Okay, so we're talking about Northern Ireland earlier, and Northern Ireland, of course, has the Northern Ireland Protocol. But, of course, Northern Ireland is still impacted by Brexit. It's not completely protected from the damage of Brexit. So it says here, Marks and Spencer's Northern Ireland deliveries and collections of some items still suspended due to Brexit. The impact, because what happens is a lot of the retailers in Northern Ireland that are originally from Britain. Mum Olin was a great person. Worked with her a few times. That's great. Yeah, she came across as a wonderful, very powerful person, very strong person. It's a very fair individual as well. So as we know, Northern Ireland is part of the UK, but it's part of the single market, and as a result of that, many businesses that have connections to Britain, of course, like Marks and Spencer's, they're mainly based in England. It's creating problems because certain goods have certain requirements if they are to cross over from Great Britain into Northern Ireland. So it says here the impact of Brexit is still being felt in Northern Ireland as it has emerged that Marks and Spencer has been unable to deliver certain products since January. The retailer has temporarily paused home deliveries of flowers, food and wine gifts, while their cakes are also unavailable for collection in the region. On their website, Marks and Spencer says, "We are working to re-enable the service as quickly as we can. We apologise for the inconvenience caused and look forward to welcoming you back online soon." In a statement to Belfast Live, the supermarket stated that the temporary suspension of these deliveries and collections has been in place since January 2021 and is due to legislative changes associated with Brexit. Now, finally, we have a supermarket chain. Supermarket chain that is admitting Brexit is the problem. Danduz, thank you so much for that super chat. Can you argue that the Good Friday Agreement began with the Anglo-Irish Agreement in 1980 between Thatcher and Fitzgerald, creating a basis of cooperation? I think it was 1984 when the Anglo-Irish Agreement was signed. But yes, I think it was a step towards eventually arriving at the stage of the signing of the Good Friday Agreement. So there were many things that had to be in place in a sense. Started with the Anglo-Irish Agreement. Then we had the changes to, for example, the treatment of Sinn Féin in the media back in the early 90s, I think it was. Then that partly led to a normalization of Sinn Féin as a political party, which of course resulted in the IRA ceasefire, the provisional IRA ceasefire in 1994. And then gradually we moved towards Sinn Féin becoming a political force in Northern Ireland. And we saw the signing of the Good Friday Agreement and then the implementation of the Good Friday Agreement after that, with power sharing and all that went along with it. At the moment, the greatest threat to the Good Friday Agreement is Brexit. Not the Northern Ireland Protocol, but Brexit itself. Monkeytron, great to see you on the stream. Big Maj, good to see you on. Hope you're well. So I think it's... it has to be protected. We need to protect the Good Friday Agreement. Make sure that it's that all aspects of it are implemented. Because what it did was it set up North-South bodies which would work together, and they also received funding and support from the European Union. A significant amount of money was pumped into Northern Ireland, or has been pumped into Northern Ireland since the late 90s to support peace, to make sure that peace doesn't crack and break and come crashing down and return us to the bad old days. So it goes on to say in this report, so at least they're talking about Brexit here. A spokesperson added, "We want to offer the same choices to our loyal Northern Ireland customers as the rest of the UK, and we're reviewing how we proceed in the context of these restrictions." I think it's difficult for M&S because there are checks that have to be carried out on these goods, and it may become more expensive or problematic just to ship them from Great Britain to Northern Ireland. because there's a risk that these goods could find their way into the single market, into the Republic, I should say. However, customers can continue to shop in store for these items at M&S food halls, as legislative issue only covers deliveries and collections. M&S fans in Northern Ireland can also continue to shop for online for clothing and household products with delivery and store collection as normal. So, as we said, it's only affecting certain goods like food or plants. Last month, Marks & Spencer chairman warned shoppers in Northern Ireland would miss out on some products this Christmas because of problems with the post-Brexit agreement on the region. Archie Norman told BBC Radio 4 programme in July that the Northern Ireland Protocol will cause gaps in the shelves. The former Tory MP said, "This Christmas, I can tell you already, we're having to make decisions to delist product for Northern Ireland because it simply is not worth the risk of trying to get it through. We've already made that decision. We're waiting to see how serious it's going to be. If there's anything like this, if it's anything like Southern Ireland, and at the moment it's set to be, then it's going to be very, very serious for customers." He called for a common sense approach to enforcement focused on the ends, which is protecting consumers, not the bureaucratic means. Yes, but we also have to remember that the consumers in the single market need to be protected. Let me read some more of your comments. Where's FSM is the dog? I don't know where FSM is the dog has gone. Can't understand why the unionists advocate for Brexit, given that Northern Ireland is going to be hugely impacted by Britain leaving the EU. So, Paul, the reason, some unionists voted to remain because they understood what was going to happen. The DUP voted for Brexit because they were sure, they put all their money on the Conservatives leaving the single market and the customs union and taking Northern Ireland with them. They had received assurances from Brexiteers like the ERG that Northern Ireland would not be left behind. And they believed them. Now, anyone who would believe Boris Johnson or Nigel Farage or Jacob Rees-Mogg or Brexit hardman Steve Baker deserves to get defrauded, because these people are charlatans. And they've proven themselves to be charlatans on numerous occasions. But the DUP, I've said this before, the DUP's hatred of the EU and Ireland was stronger than their love for the Union. And I'd say the same about Ben Habib as well, from the former Brexit Party MEP. His hatred of the European Union, I don't know if he cares much about Ireland, but his hatred of the EU is stronger than his love for the Union. So of course Brexit was going to win and Northern Ireland was going to be sacrificed. When they said that Michel Barnier said that Northern Ireland would be the price to pay for Brexit, I don't think that Michel Barnier was talking about Europe. He was talking about Brexiteers, because they're the ones who sacrificed Northern Ireland for Brexit. It wasn't necessary for Northern Ireland to be sacrificed. Northern Ireland could have remained part of the UK in the sense that it was before, but the UK as a whole would have had to stay within the single market of the customs union, but Brexiteers didn't want that. To do is, I'm so sorry mispronouncing your name, Cantwell. I'll say Cantwell, Mr. Cantwell. Yes, 1985, stupid Google autocomplete. Should know better. Love the increasingly exotic way you say my name. Signed, Tad. Tad, I'll just call you Tad. Sorry. I know it's terrible. And I mean no offense. Please take no offense, by the way. I'm terrible pronouncing people's names. Even Irish names like Owen. You can find very strange ways to write Owen, or Don Leary. Look up the word Don Leary and you'll find it's not written as how it's said. Thanks very much for that super chat. You're very kind and very patient with my pronunciation skills. Who won? Who won out of the Boris versus Boris versus Farage in the comment section on your video, Max? I haven't checked who came out. I haven't checked all the comments, so I don't know. But it seems to be Farage. I think most people blame Farage. Some people put the cross in the wrong box. Have the UK government kept the receipts for all the Union flags? Oh my god. So, I love Irish spelling, it's an art. They spent 170,000 on flags. And GB News wanted them to spend more than that, of course. Sort of cynical commentary by GB News. Yes, we don't care about poor children. We don't care about food banks. We don't care about... I live near Dunleary. Hey, Martha. Very nice part of the country. It's very entertaining. Max is spot on. Is it about my pronunciation, or are you talking about something else? Okay. Anyway, let's continue. So it seems that Marks and Spencers think that things will improve. I don't really see how things will improve unless they start sourcing from the Republic of Ireland. Now, I'm not sure, but I think Marks and Spencers in the Republic source all their goods from the EU. So most of their products, I think, are sourced from mainland Europe. So what could happen is Marks and Spencers Northern Ireland could start selling products from the EU and avoid trying to get them across from Great Britain. Would people in Northern Ireland really notice the difference? I don't think so. Some products you would naturally lose, but you would gain some new ones. So, but I don't see it getting better in a sense that you'll be able to get more GB products into Northern Ireland anytime soon. So I want to move on to a different topic for a moment. What's happening with education? Before we get to that, I just want to read more of your comments because you guys make the stream, of course. Boris would be a Remainer depending on which way the wind is blowing. Farage is just a nutter. Farage, no, I wouldn't call Farage a nutter. Farage knows how to manipulate people. Marks and Spencer. Farage is good at manipulating people. So he knows which buttons to press. And you can see it with the topics that he jumps onto. So he was criticizing China recently, although that didn't really work out that well for him because the average person on the street doesn't know what China does or doesn't know about Chinese influence in the world. They just know that it's bad. And he knows to tell them it's bad. Same with immigration. He's not actually providing any solutions to what's happening in the channel. He's just criticizing the government, criticizing charities, criticizing those rescuing people at sea. He's not actually providing any alternatives. Okay, how do we deal with this issue? Should we open up offices abroad so people can actually claim asylum abroad? What about claiming asylum at an embassy or at a British consulate or something like that? Or some particular office near a site where there are many people who want to get to Britain. Make it easier for them. He's not suggesting that because he's not about solutions. He's just about shouting, highlighting problems or inventing problems. His solution, of course, for the issue of Brexit or the issue of EU membership was we just leave. No plan. We just leave. You know, on one occasion he was saying we can be like Norway, and then he was criticizing anyone for suggesting that the UK would be like Norway. He says we can be like Switzerland, and then he was suggesting no, we don't have to be like Switzerland, because he doesn't really have a plan. He just says I'll try this, see how the people react. Okay, go with that. It's a big problem with people like that because Nigel Farage should have disappeared from the airwaves. He should not be on TV. He should not be on the radio because he was wrong. He was proven to be wrong. And instead, because he gets bums on seats in a sense, or he gets eyes on the screen, that's why he's brought back. Not because he actually adds anything to the conversation, not that he actually has any workable solutions to problems. It's just that he complains, and people like to hear him complain. And he's a grifter, yes. Education, 98% of the British people can't find Britain on a world map. I think you find that with most people in most countries, I think. Although maybe I'm tarring too much with a very big brush there. Yes, is he back? Can't we dox him? Perfect. Farage is the perfect human metaphor for a floating. Can't get rid of it. Those flags make some very expensive reusable toilet paper. Be like Switzerland, 10 referendums in 1 year. I'm not against referendums. I just think they need to be done the right way. The public need to be informed. And of course, Brexit was the opposite of a Swiss referendum. Farage is just white noise on in the background when you're in a group, says Steve. We know how to pull people's emotional levers. He knows how to. Yes, he definitely does. He knows exactly what to say to their. Look at how he was able to convince the fishermen to vote against their own interests. Look at how he was able to convince working class people to vote against their own interests, because he was able to identify what they were upset about, and he was able to sell them the solution of Brexit. And Brexit was a panacea. But, you know, I remember, I think it was a Simpsons episode. Simpsons provide life education, not life education, but provide so many interesting aspects of life to comprehend. Anyway, there was a Simpsons episode where there was a man selling monorail. And he went from town to town selling this idea of a monorail where people would put all their money together. I don't remember the ins and outs of the episode, but I remember that he was flying in his plane in this plane, and the plane had to make an emergency landing in one of the towns where he sold a monorail previously to, and he was attacked by a mob. How come that has not happened to Nigel Farage? How come this fishermen, the small business owners are not upset with Nigel Farage? He lied to them. He sold them the idea, monorail. He sold them the idea that everything would be great. And many of them have gone bust. And they're still not upset with the guy who lied to them. They're upset with the people who told them that they would go bust if they voted for the guy who lied to them. And voted for a disaster that would make them poor. They're upset with those people, but they're not upset with the guy who lied to them. I really don't understand that. He could have done Brexit better. Yes, he was advocating for a no deal Brexit, a clean break Brexit, where there would be no deal. And I remember people on YouTube comment section talking about, we need to leave with no deal. We need a clean break Brexit. Just leave now. It's like, okay, so you want tariffs imposed on you. You want it to be more difficult than having a deal. Because he was even selling the idea of a no-deal Brexit last December. We just need to leave without a deal. Absolutely no understanding of the consequences of that. Johan, thank you so much for that super chat. Does anyone think Norway will let the UK join EFTA? They are the big dog there, and I guess like the power. Of course, see, I've said before, I hope eventually that the UK rejoins the European Union, but there are many steps along the way. The UK will have to rejoin the single market and the customs union. If it doesn't do that, it will join the EEA, or it will have to, in this sense, join the group with Norway. But as you said, Norway are not going to let them in, or if they do, there will be certain conditions. That's the reality of it. A lot of us would hope that the UK could rejoin pretty quickly, but I don't see that happening. Because the EU will say, well, we could let you in, but what are you going to do as soon as you're in? You're going to have another referendum, you're going to want to leave again. Like, what's to stop someone like Boris Johnson coming along in 5 years' time after the UK has joined and deciding, well, we want to leave again? What's to stop Nigel Farage, Jacob Rees-Mogg or someone like that campaigning later on to leave? It's possible. I hope it doesn't happen. So I think there are many steps in order to get to a stage where the UK would rejoin. And it may never actually rejoin. I hope I'm wrong on this. I do. Norway has already poured water on the UK joining the EEA. Norway has understood that UK is now weak and takes advantage of that. Yeah, they will demand concessions from the UK if they want to join the EEA. I don't see them the same way the European Union would demand concessions from the UK if they wanted to join the European Union. It's not there's no reset button here. And there may be many countries who would be against the UK joining. Now, what could happen, I think is more plausible, is that Scotland would become independent and Scotland would join. And then Wangland, as Graham Hughes calls it, following many steps, proportional representation has been implemented or something like that, where the Tories basically have no more power anymore, no more real influence over the country. It could get to a stage where Wangland could join following the rules of new country membership. So I think something like that. But we're talking at least 10 years. England are. I don't think the EU wants the UK back. No, not at the moment. That could change, of course. But at the moment, look at who's in charge. Boris Johnson and the Brexiteers, who are attacking the EU on almost a daily basis. So who would want those people back? I know they don't represent Britain, but at the moment they're the ones in power. They're the loudest voices. So who would want those people? Would anyone like to live next door to Boris Johnson, Nigel Farage and Jacob Rees-Mogg? I would not. So until they've moved out and new people have moved in, I think it's going to stay the way it is. Keeping the UK at an arm's length. Or maybe a pier, a barge pole's length. 20 years at least. I don't know. A lot of things can happen between now and 10 years in the future. If proportional, I think the key here is proportional representation, because that's going to be a real game changer. But it needs the Labour Party on board. The Labour Party need to support proportional representation, otherwise it's not going anywhere. But I could see how PR would really change the game, in the sense that you would have new political parties in British politics. The Conservatives would break up into smaller factions. The Labour Party would, of course, break up into different factions as well. You would have more parties, and you would have coalitions. And you would have more pro-European coalitions than you would have anti-European coalitions. And you would have pretty stable pro-European governments, I'm pretty sure. At the beginning, of course, with a new political system, it's going to be a rough ride. But after a couple of years, I think things would become pretty stable. And, the idea of Brexit would be a distant memory, in a sense. The impact, of course, would be real and still having its effect. But the vote, the idea of leaving the European Union would be so alien to these people in the future. Maybe I'm being overly optimistic. And Labour could use a vision. Yes, Labour need a vision. If they don't have a vision, then they're not going to get into power. Or they have to rely at least on the Conservatives getting rid of Boris Johnson and putting someone like Michael Gove in charge. That's really the only hope they have. But they would need a massive swing, and I don't see that happening. You would need Michael Gove in charge, and then Gove to do something absolutely disastrous. I don't know, go to war with someone. That would be, probably the only thing that would convince people to vote against the Conservatives. Not wanted back. I don't say that. I would like to have Britain back as a member, but not the current Brexiteer government, of course. The UK as an entity is dead. I'm afraid so. I think the Brexiteers have killed it. The Brexiteers have killed the union. Labour needs Max. Hey, thank you so much. But I'd be too critical of what of their members and of the leadership, I'm afraid. They wouldn't want me on board. Gove is hiding in a fridge. Perhaps he's hiding in a fridge. Boris Johnson gave him some pointers. Hide in a fridge. Okay, so this is an interesting story about what's happening with following the pandemic. There was and I covered this before on the channel. During the pandemic, of course, high school students kids couldn't go to school. They had to stay at home. They couldn't do exams. Some of the exams were graded by their teachers, and what's resulted is that a lot of them got top grades. Now, there seems to be a bit of scaremongering about this. I don't know if it's correct to be worried about this, or whether it's if it's a real concern, or if it's nothing to be worried about. I think these things tend to correct themselves. So if there is a belief that many people got better grades than they deserved, what will happen is when they start university, if they're not prepared for university, they will drop out. So I think university itself will be the great corrector here. So people who got grades they deserved will be prepared, will be able to stick at a university. Those who did not will likely leave before the first year is up. Well, let's see this report from Channel 4 News about this.
2 years of disrupted learning, it comes down to this. And Rachel Imadi wanted to bring mum Patricia along for support, for the opening of an envelope that could determine her future.
It's that. 3 stars.
What did you get, Rachel?
3 stars.
3 stars, that's brilliant. That's really good.
Oh my God!
After COVID closures and limited lessons, for Rachel, her results mean even more.
I think studying within the pandemic was hard because of social and academic changes.
Is it a bit annoying when everyone keeps saying, oh, it's just grade inflation?
Yeah, people are saying it's going to affect employment, etc. But I think it's a strength, like I kind of said earlier, because I believe that we've learnt so many IT skills throughout the year. So I believe our grades reflect what we can do.
You're obviously so proud.
I'm so proud of her. I'm excited. Just can't thank God enough. Thank you, Jesus.
Don't thank Jesus. Thank the girl. She did the study. Jesus didn't study. I always find it funny when people say, "Thank Jesus." I got my heart surgery done. I want to thank Jesus. No, thank the bloody surgeon. They're the one who studied. They're the one who did the bloody 8-hour, 12-hour operation. Anyway, I'm going a bit overboard there. Let me read some more of your comments. Who in the EU wants the UK back? I think it's difficult to find some countries that do. Look, once again, this is about the Brexiteers. Nobody in the EU wants the Brexiteers back. Max, can you remember your A-level grades? No, I can't. So I'm a bit like the education minister. I don't remember. But I'm sure the education minister would have access to that information. There was another comment I wanted to read. What question do you all want me to ask Jeremy Corbyn in Derry this week when he's there? Ah, wow, Anthony. Wow, okay. A question for Jeremy Corbyn. My question would be, if you could go. No, let me see. Apart from not the Tory Brexit, but just Brexit as a concept. Is he supportive of Brexit as a concept? And then I'd let him, define what he means by Brexit as a concept. So that would be my question for him. Max is only 20. 20 in each leg. So my question, would be, do you support Brexit as a concept? Because he could try and, if you said, do you support Brexit? You say, oh no, the Brexit that Boris Johnson delivered is terrible. It's damaging. No. I want to know whether he supports leaving the European Union as a concept. Because I'm not sure whether he does or not. He's spoken out against the European Union in the past. He was dragged kicking and screaming over to the Remain side. I don't know whether he supported Remain or not. But I'd like to know whether he would support rejoining the European Union or whether he just would support leaving the European Union as a concept as all. What did Sir Ron Venty get? He got all A stars, of course. See, Sir Ron Venty has a long history, I think his great, I don't remember how many greats, grandfather fought at the Battle of Agincourt. He died of dysentery, but he did get to the battle. And then his grandfather worked in armaments. Well, no, he actually owned a company producing armaments for the British Army in World War II. Sir Ron Venty's great-grandfather, I think it was. They used bad materials, low-quality materials, because it was cheaper, and then they overcharged the military for them. And then I think it was about 60% of the the munitions or armaments didn't work. There were a few deaths as well on the wrong side. But that is something. There's a painting of a portrait of Sir, I don't remember his first name, Venty, in Sir Ron Venty's mansion. Saying thanks Jesus means that you're thankful for every day you got to live, and the next one due to the surgeons. It's directed to them too. Off on a tangent. Yes, I'm off on a tangent. Let's get back to this.
The results here at this academy in Nottingham reflect the national picture. In England, those getting top marks have reached a record high at nearly 45%, and it's slightly higher in Wales and Northern Ireland. Girls have done better than boys, perhaps because they perform better under continuous assessment than exams.
I got 4 A stars, so yeah.
I got 3 A stars and an A.
That's brilliant. Are you disappointed with the A?
Slightly, yeah.
The Education Secretary has defended this year's results, saying these students deserve to be rewarded after the disruption they faced. After last year's controversial algorithm was axed, their grades were assessed by their teachers instead of exams.
Did your teachers give out too many A's and A stars?
So I just saw a comment from Killer. Sir Ron Venty needs to do a Q&A. That needs to happen. I can try and get on to him and ask him if he could do maybe a Q&A live stream, if you guys would be interested. I don't know how I'm going to get him on, but I'll try and convince him to come on. You can put on the camera and you can see him and he can try and answer your questions during the live stream. So it'd have to be maybe one of the days we normally do it, but I don't know if I can be on at the same time because we couldn't fit on the same camera. But yeah, I'll see about getting Sir Ron Venty. If you guys would be interested, I can have a Sir Ron Venty Q&A. You can ask him questions and he can answer them.
Title teacher assessed grades is potentially a little bit misleading. It makes it sound like there's one teacher sat in a room by themselves who's kind of made this grade up for what they think should be right, and actually it's been much more of a rigorous and robust process than that. Every grade's been scrutinised. 2 teachers as a minimum have been involved in every student and every grade.
But the headlines about grade inflation don't tell the full story. Analysis suggests there are regional variations with implications for the levelling up agenda. Here in the Midlands, around 41% of students got top marks. In the North East, it was 39%, but in London, it was 48%.
We know that the pandemic exposed inequalities, and that's reflected in today's results.
The increase in A grades was 50% higher amongst private schools than state schools. And black students and those on free school meals and those living in more deprived areas haven't done as well as their more advantaged classmates.
So that would suggest that it's not just a case of the teachers giving them good grades. Although perhaps some of that is, but if not all students are getting it seems to be dependent on the region, then it would imply that maybe more difficult and more regions or parts of the country that are more deprived, they are actually not getting the higher grades because of the economic situation, not so much about teachers just giving out good grades.
The pandemic has been a generational level challenge for educational equality and levelling up. And this is consistently something we've seen over the last 18 months, where the impacts of COVID-19 have had differential impacts on different types of students facing different types of challenges in the home. And that's had huge consequences for their learning. And we're seeing the results of that today.
You're through to Nottingham Trent University Clearing Call Centre. How can I help you today?
What will these disparities mean for the futures of young people? On the other side of Nottingham, the Clearing Call Centre at Trent University. There's a concern that the record A-level grades will squeeze access to popular courses. Some institutions who are struggling to cope with the number of applications have offered free accommodation and even discounts for students to defer for a year.
At peak, we'll have 200 people who can take calls.
Some unis have been criticised for still only offering online lessons, with suggestions they should be offering a discount. The Vice-Chancellor here says there are some courses for which a blend is better.
There is some material we've learnt in the last 12 months is better done online than in person, and students agree. And when that's the case, you'll mix the in-person with the online, and that's blended learning. But
shouldn't tuition fees be eliminated? Then we'd actually know whether the universities care about the cost, or would they care about the quality, I should say. Because if they're doing more stuff online because it's cheaper, then if you eliminate the tuition fees, if the state pay for the tuition itself, then there'd be no incentive. So the universities will actually decide, well, it's actually better to have this course online, not that it's cheaper for us.
the focus will be on the in-person.
Whatever the controversy over their grades, after such a challenging year, most students will simply be celebrating having made it through.
Darshana Soni. But in Scotland, pass rates in Highers and Advanced Highers have slipped since last year. But they're still far above pre-pandemic levels, as the country's Education Secretary praised students for achieving such strong results, quotes, under extraordinary circumstances, while a record number of Scottish students have been awarded university places there. Our Scotland correspondent, Kieran Jenkins, is in Glasgow. Kieran.
Yeah, Vimister, yeah, I agree with. Take a gap year, get some money up, build some money up, then go to uni when the chaos has somewhat died down. I think it's also a possibility if you have some money, and of course a lot of people don't, most people don't, if you have the possibility to travel a little bit around Europe, of course now with the UK no longer being a member of the European Union, it's more difficult, but travel a bit, try and see a bit of the world before you get into university, because a big problem I think for many people is as soon as they finish university, they're straight into the job market if possible, and they don't get the chance to experience life as a young person. So I would definitely recommend it if you have the possibility. Defer for a year. You know, it's just 1 year. It's not going to make a huge difference in your life in regards to study, but it will let you open up some horizons, and I do recommend more young people travel. Stop them voting Tory as well. No wonder the Erasmus with Erasmus gone. Yes, unfortunately. Thank the older people. No offense to older people, but you know, a lot of the Brexiteers were older people who didn't give a crap about freedom of movement or didn't give a crap about Erasmus or other benefits of being a member of the European Union. They voted those things away. If you haven't swam naked, stop doing Stop doing work now. Okay. Oh yes, let's have Sir Ronventy expose his party breast skills. What? So yeah, it seems that everyone likes to have Sir Ronventy on for. So I'll get onto him. I'll try and coax him onto the to doing a stream. I'll sit back and watch from the distance and see how it goes. So you can answer him question. He's a Brexiteer, obviously, so don't expect logical responses. Okay. All people actually see the world. US and UK are not everything there is. A lot of younger people did not even vote. And a lot of younger people weren't able to vote. That's a sad factor as well. If they had reduced the age of, was it to 16, a lot of more younger people would have voted, and perhaps the results could have been different. But I agree, many young people don't bother to vote. Scottish students don't pay tuition fees, so it might be a good case study on whether the universities will do what that incentive isn't there. Yes, that's a very interesting question, Space Pills. It'd be interesting to see how make a comparison between what's happening in Scotland and England when it comes to how these courses are being offered after the pandemic.
John, yeah, after the fiasco of results day in Scotland last year, less drama today. Most students kind of knew their results back in June, and that's because they were based on teacher assessments rather than formal exams, although there has been some criticism that they amounted those assessments to exams in all but name in any case. But it's meant that, like last year, although not quite as high as last year, the overall pass rate for hires in Scotland is way higher than pre-pandemic levels. Also, the difference between the richest and the poorest, the attainment gap that we keep hearing about, narrower these days than it was pre-pandemic, although progress had somewhat stalled before the pandemic. And you'll remember that Nicola Sturgeon famously said that that was the defining mission of her government, closing that gap. And this year, that gap got a little worse than last year. Here's the Scottish Education Secretary.
So we are seeing progress to tackle the poverty-related attainment gap. We've seen reports just published in March which have demonstrated good evidence that that is happening, but we know we need to do more, we know we can do more, and the government is absolutely committed and determined to do that.
Also in March, as it happens, Audit Scotland published a report on closing the attainment gap, and they found that progress had been limited and fell short of the Scottish Government's aims. So results this year and last year, a bit of an outlier, but on that key measure that Nicola Sturgeon wants to be judged on, by her government's own admission, plenty of work still to do.
Kieran Jenkins in Glasgow.
I think it's still... I'm not trying to take side of Nicola Sturgeon here, but last year was a particular year, particularly weird year for everyone involved. And while I at the time I said, look, I think it makes sense for the students to be assessed by their teachers. It's not perfect. They weren't able to sit the exams, so it was the only alternative available. So of course you're going to not get the same results as you would have had if you had sat the exams in person. But that was what we were faced with, and this is the consequence, it seems. But as I said at the beginning of this piece, I have a feeling a lot of these things will sort of sort themselves out, because when people start applying to university, they start studying at university, if they have been overcompensated at high school or secondary school, then they're going to be in for a bit of a shock, and they may not be able to get through the year at university. It may be too difficult for them. So I think it is going to separate those who should have been in university and those who should not have. And I think that's really all we can say about that at this stage. And then hopefully next year things will return to some sort of normality, but it's not guaranteed. So let's take a break from the serious stuff for a moment, guys, and let's see this comedy video for a moment. Enjoy. Oops. This is very good. So I'll be back in a moment. We'll return in a moment. Let's watch this first.
A wiser man than me once said, Freedom, I won't let you down. Freedom, I will not give you up. Freedom, gotta have some faith in the sound. And what sound can that wise man have been talking about but the sound of the Spitfires that kept this great nation safe during the Battle of Britain? That's the noise that I made in my bedroom when I pretended to be a Spitfire, and I will never forgive my parents for giving birth to me just too late for me to be a pilot in the Battle of Britain, because I know I would have been a great pilot, and I would have done a lot of During the Battle of Britain, they didn't force people to do things they didn't want to do. People wanted to put blackout blinds up, and if they didn't, nobody wrote anything nasty about them or threatened to send them to prison. That's a fact, and I'm a historian, so I should know. You see, those brave men and boys, which would have included me, I'd have been great at it and braver than all of them put together, fought for my freedom. My freedom to live my life exactly as I choose, to ignore the wishes, needs, or existence of all other people if they impinge on my whims. Because what is freedom, if it's not the freedom to push an old man out of the way so you can get the last seat on the bus, or the freedom to run over a lollipop lady because you're late for work, or the freedom to set off fireworks in a cinema because you think it will improve the film? You know, at the height of the Battle of Britain, Churchill turned to me and said, "I don't think I can do this." And I said, "Winnie, old boy, you have to. Because if you don't, then in 80 years' time, I won't have the freedom to give an immunocompromised person a deadly disease." And do you know what he said to me? Nothing. He just shoved his cigar back in his mouth and went and won the bloody war. And I don't think the fact that that was just a dream I had makes any difference to how powerful it is. As a wise man once said, you have to take these lies and make them true somehow. Because let's not forget, I don't belong to you, and you don't belong to me. You got to give for what you take. And I'll take what belongs to you, thank you, because that is my freedom.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, let's move on. So, not very good news in regards to the pandemic. It says here, UK records highest number of daily COVID deaths since March. This was 4 hours ago. UK has recorded 23,510 new COVID-19 cases and 146 more COVID-related deaths in the last 24-hour period, according to government data. The figures compared with 25,161 infections and 37 fatalities reported on Monday, while last Tuesday 21,000 cases and 138 deaths were announced. The number of deaths reported today is the highest total since 175 were recorded on the 12th of March. Since the pandemic began, a total of 130,000 people have died in the UK, with 21 days of testing positive for coronavirus. And there have been 6,117,554 confirmed infections. So it goes on to say, Prime Minister Boris Johnson described the milestone as a huge achievement. I'll read this part before about the vaccine. So on Tuesday, the Department of Health and Social Care announced 75% of adults in the UK have now received both doses, and 89% of people have had one jab. Is that true? I thought the UK was about a month away from that figure. Prime Minister Boris Johnson described the milestone as a huge national achievement which we should all be proud of. Our incredible vaccine rollout has now provided vital protection against the virus to 3/4 of all UK adults. This is a huge national achievement which we should all be proud of, the PM said in a statement. According to the latest data from Public Health England and Cambridge University, about 60,000 deaths, 22 million infections, and 66,900 hospitalizations have been prevented by the vaccines. It is believed 2 jabs provide over 90% protection against hospitalization from the Delta variant, which is the most dominant strain in the UK at present. Early on Tuesday, Professor Andrew Pollard, director of the Oxford Vaccine Group, has claimed herd immunity is not a possibility with the current Delta variant. So yes, there was this idea that, okay, we get to a certain, and I actually had bought into this as well, the idea that if you can get to a certain percentage of the population vaccinated, then you have achieved herd immunity. That seemed to have been the case with the Alpha variant, but with the Delta variant, that does not seem to be the case. The Delta variant does not facilitate herd immunity. So people who have been double jabbed are also possible. It's also possible for them to contract the virus through the Delta variant. He described the idea as mythical and warned that a vaccine program should not be built around the idea of achieving it. Speaking during a session of the all-party group on COVID-19, he said, we know very clearly with coronavirus that this current variant, the Delta variant, will still infect people who have been vaccinated, and that does not mean that anyone who is still unvaccinated at present will meet the virus. So yeah, it doesn't protect people doesn't fully protect people from contracting it. It protects people from serious hospitalization, but it doesn't stop you from spreading it, which is a huge concern. So that means that people who have not received the jab are more likely to end up in hospital and unfortunately die. Let me read some more of your comments. Conservator, great to see you on the stream. Sorry, I meant to say hello earlier. They don't usually give the adults figure in England, but the figures are usually accurate. We get adult figures in Scotland every day. I did not say the vaccination itself was unimportant. I mean that the vaccination, you should still get these high numbers. Something goes wrong here. Do we have some trolls on the stream? USA has Delta Plus variant now. Oh my god. See, this is a huge problem we have at the moment, is that there are people who will refuse to get the vaccine, and they facilitate the spread of facilitate the development of new variants. So we're starting to see new variants then. And then there's a risk that, as we've seen with the Delta variant, that the current vaccine does not stop the spread of it completely. It protects people from serious hospitalization, but doesn't protect from the spread, which means that more people who are not vaccinated are more likely to get infected. What we need to do is we may need to go back into a state of some sort of restriction to protect healthcare systems. Otherwise, they're going to risk to be collapsed. A new, more easily spread variant was found in Africa yesterday. Only one person infected, but that's all it takes. See, Sky won't cover this, but in Ireland we do. Delta Plus has already been seen in the UK. What about the Johnson variant? Glad you're still awake now, Raven. Double jab means you are at best 95% protected from infection, or another way to say it, you have a 1 in 20 chance of contracting it. Even so, people ask me why I'm wearing a mask. Well said, Peter. Why do people still ask why are you wearing a mask? It's to protect others. You know, if we look at some countries in Asia, they were wearing masks long before the pandemic came along, this particular pandemic. So for example, in South Korea and Japan, two countries that come to mind. Out of common courtesy, when you had a cold, you would generally put on a mask to protect others. It wasn't some sort of conspiracy or anything. That's common decency. Protect others if you have a cold. Maintain some sort of social distancing if you have flu. In the same way, we should be maintaining some of these measures after COVID. Out of common courtesy, protect others. They will help us in the long term, but I'm afraid many people just want to go back to the way things were before, to press the reset button. Where are you from? Is that for me, Minerva? I'm from Ireland, but I live in Italy. We need to send vaccines to the whole world as a priority. The variants will come from the entire world. Yes, I agree 100%, Neil. 100%. Until we're all protected, none of us are protected. And I really hate this idea of a race. There's a race taking place. And of course, the Brexiteers were the first to start talking about how the UK is leading everyone else. The UK is leading Europe. And then recently it was overtaken by a number of European countries. And as soon as that was mentioned, it was, how dare you talk about a race? How dare you run down the UK? But the Brexiteers are still talking about how it was necessary to leave the European Union in order to roll out the vaccine faster than any other country in Europe. Yes, but no, I don't even want to get into that again. Chinese were wearing masks 12 years ago. Well done. Here in Cornwall, like 95% of people I see in the shops are still wearing masks. Apparently in places like Bristol, basically no one does. Why? Look, well, I know why, because the government removed the guidance. So it's no longer necessary to wear a mask inside. Please, out of common courtesy, protect the people who are working there. You know, there are people who have to work in these places for 8 hours or more a day. They have to come into contact with the public. The least you can do is put on a mask for the 5 or 10 minutes that you're in there and then take it off when you leave. It's what we have at the moment here in Italy, and it seems to be working. We haven't seen a huge spike in new cases. Cases are rising, of course, because the restrictions have been almost eliminated completely, but it's still a requirement to sanitize your hands when you enter a building and to wear a mask, which I think is a good idea. I'm a bit of a germphobe, so I always hated the idea of I'm going completely off tangent here. When you go to the bathroom in a shopping center or whatever, and okay, I have to use the handle of the door to get out, instead of those doors that swing open and back. No, there's a bloody handle there, and I can guarantee that somebody went to the bathroom and they did not wash their hands, and now I have to handle this. So I use my elbow or I wouldn't use my feet. Okay, I'm not that I don't have those types of gymnastic skills, but try and get that door handle open without touching it with my bare hand. So that doesn't help. So because of the pandemic, even if people don't wash their hands are at least sanitized. So, monkey twats. Yes. Not a good thing to have, germophobia. So let's continue. It says here, David Cameron urged to address reports he made $10 million from Greensill. So David Cameron is under growing pressure to answer further questions about his involvement in Greensill Capital, given he reportedly made up to 10 million or 7 million pounds from this. Yes. So after BBC Panorama reported on the sum he made, these people, let me just start by saying, these people go into politics. Why? Why do they go into politics? It's to make themselves richer. It's not about making the country better, making lives of people better. It should be, I would actually prefer these people came out at the beginning and said, look, I'm going to become a politician because I want to have a very big fat pension when I retire, and I want to make some money on the side. I'd have more respect for them if they actually said that, instead of, yes, I want to lift this country out of poverty, and I want to return us to the main stage. I want us to be a shining light of democracy in the world. No, just cut the crap and just say, look, I'm in it for the money. I'm in it for the wealth. I'm in it for the connections, because they eventually result in massive amounts of wealth. Because then at least you know who you would be voting for. Max, near the end, tell me your question again. I have a pen and paper ready. Yes, well, I can tell you now if you have it ready. So I'd ask him, did he support Brexit as a concept? Not as so, and I have to be clear about that, because if you say, do you support Brexit, he would say, no, I don't support the Tory Brexit. I was completely against that. No, do you support Brexit as a concept, leaving the European Union as a concept? Yes or no. But of course he's a politician, so he's not going to answer yes or no. It's very difficult to get a politician to answer a question clearly. You have to frame the question. You might be better framing the question a little bit differently. If you had been in charge back in 2019, what sort of Brexit would you have gone for? Actually, that'd be a better question, because then you'd be able to get him to say, if he said no, well, I wouldn't have, or if back in if you had been Prime Minister back in 2015, would you have held a referendum for leaving the European Union? No, this is maybe not a good question. I'd have to have a think about it, because it's not so much the question, it's about how he's going to not answer it. Got that? Okay, very well. Because it was a bit of a muddle there, but I think probably the best question you'd have to ask him is, did he support Brexit as a concept, or does he support Brexit as a concept? If the 2016 referendum was repeated, would you vote? What would you vote today? Because he would say, but it depends on who's in charge, and it depends. So the fact Corbyn wouldn't answer your question when he would have when he was elected tells you everything you need to know, everything about it. Yeah, everything about everything. Okay. Anyway, it says here, Cameron has shied away from the limelight since it first emerged that he texted Whitehall officials and politicians, including the Chancellor Rishi Sunak, pushing for Greensill to get the largest possible allocation of government-backed loans under the COVID corporate financing facility. But after his spokesperson denied he received anything like the remuneration reported, Labour Deputy Leader Angela Rayner urged him to come clean. She said if the reported $1 million salary and $4.5 million in shares, and why am I reading the dollars, £504,000 bonus were wrong, Cameron should correct the record, say that the British public knows how much he has gained from influencing government policy. Unfortunately, I think because he's a private citizen, he doesn't actually have to correct any record. That's one of the privileges he has. The Labour MP, Darren Jones, he should, he was a Prime Minister. It's the right thing to do, but he's a Tory. Darren Jones, chair of the Common Affairs Select Committee, said questions remained about whether Cameron knew Greensill was in financial trouble when he was lobbying on its behalf. In the run-up to the collapse of the bank run by his former advisor, the Australian financier Lex Greensill. Anyone called Lex has to be evil. I'm joking. I'm sure there's nobody on the stream called Lex. But who names their child Lex? What if your surname was Luther? Lex. It's the perfect name for a bad guy. Yeah, I'm going to invest money I'm going to work for a guy called Lex. What was the name of the guy from The Simpsons? This sort of villain who was really nice that Homer Simpson started working for. I forget what his name was. You're a really nice guy. He was like trying to kill James Bond or something. Jones said Cameron should clarify if he was aware Greensill was having to move money around to cover up businesses that were in a sense bankrupt, while he cashed out his shares and at the same time were lobbying his friends in Whitehall and officials to get public-backed funds to shore up the failing business, and therefore a huge commercial interest of his for him. Probably what was happening is that the business is going down the toilet, and Greensill probably got on to David Cameron and said, look, can you do something about this? If you can get us some money, if you can get the government to back some loans, will be able to get out of this hole, and I'll compensate you for that. You know, I'm going to make sure that you're well paid for that, because Cameron was the conduit. Cameron was his man in Whitehall, in a sense. My mum called me Lex. Super fan of Canadian TV names kids Lex. That's right, double X. The Dutch king is called Lex Alexander. Hank Scorpion. Yes, Hank Scorpion. That's great. That was a wonderful episode. Maggie is short for Margaret, so who knows? Hey Pete, Lex is amazing. I'm not familiar with Lex, double X. But probably what happened was that, you know, the business was going down the toilet. Lex, supervillain, contacted David Cameron and says, look, David, can you do something about this? Get on to Whitehall. They get on to the Chancellor. He can send, you know, he can back some of these loans. We can get the company out of a hole. I'll back you up. If all goes tits up, then, you know, as it's a government-backed loan, it'll be their problem to deal with. We'll be sitting pretty, and you'll make a few quid out of it, and then you can go away, you know, live in the Cayman Islands or something, or someplace where there aren't extradition treaties, and you'll be fine. That was probably the plan, but it didn't go as according to plan. Let me read some more of your comments. But this is just typical. This is typical Tory behaviour. Get into power, make some money while you're there, make contacts so that when you leave, you'll be set up for life. That's what it's about. It's not about making the country better. It's not about working for the people. Working for the people. I think there are very few MPs who are actually working for the people. Get rid of money and go back to barter. Has anyone ever told US-born Alexander Johnson to go home? I wish somebody would. Wouldn't it be funny? Wouldn't it be absolutely hilarious if there was some sort of mix-up and Boris Johnson got accidentally deported to the United States? Can you imagine it? You know, he was out. He was staying in his flat, and a knock came at the door, and he says, "Like, I'm the Prime Minister," and they're like, "Yeah, that's what they all say." They bundled him into the back of a van. It'd be great if it was, you know, somebody who was who immigrated to the UK, was working for the Home Office. Just that would be the icing on the cake. And he was put on a flight. Maybe he became a bit violent, and they had to sedate him, put him on a flight and send him to New York. No, Washington. I don't know. Where do you deport people to the United States to? And Upper East Side, New York City, New York. And he wakes up in the airport, you know, in that suit that he was still wearing when he was. Remember, he turned up at the airport in Perugia, I think it was, in Italy, after some drinking session at a Russian-owned castle in Italy. That would be wonderful. Or even better if it happened to Priti Patel. I don't know who would it be better to, who would be more who would be more just. Who would be more not justified? Well, you know, carry him onto the plane in handcuffs. I mean, first we need to have a driver here, no? Guantanamo Bay. It's a bit difficult to get out of there. Chianti. I'm not sure it was Chianti. Johnson needs a pick and a shovel and a good day's work. Spoon-fed creature. Yes. Perugia. Was it in Perugia? Best deserving. Yes. Sorry, killer. Thank you. Send Priti Patel back to Uganda. is it Uganda? Her family originally from Harlem. No, it'd be wonderful if Boris Johnson was sent to somewhere, I don't know, if he was deported to Alabama or somewhere like that, where the people don't know who the hell he is. And it'd be like going to the sheriff saying, look, I'm the prime minister. They've taken my phone, they've taken my money. I'm the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. And this sheriff or deputy in some little village in Alabama going, I don't know who the hell you are, dude. Just stay in your cell. A lawyer will be appointed for you. Probably on Monday. Today's Friday, but it's the weekend, so you'll have to wait here until Monday. Would anyone really miss him? Don't deport Priti Patel to Uganda. Poor place has enough on its plate. Priti Patel is still on the Elon Musk rocket to Jupiter because there are no immigrants there. It'd be too cruel to the people of Uganda. Are they talking that the Gove is getting her job? So there was talk about Rishi Sunak becoming Health Secretary, which is a poison chalice at the moment, and Michael Gove becoming Home Office or the head of the Home Office, Secretary of State for Secretary of State, yes. So I don't know. Boris Johnson has decided. Well, it seems that Boris Johnson is not going to do a reshuffle at the moment. What I'm more concerned about is if there's an election coming, because there's a chance that they could call an early election to try and shore up some support before the real impact of Brexit is felt, and that is concerning. Let me read some more of your... Thanks, Max. Cahill, thank you so much for that super chat. Wiki says that Patel is born in London. Yes, no, she was born in London. Her parents immigrated from outside the UK, and it's likely that if they had migrated to the UK under the rules that Priti Patel has brought in, they wouldn't have been allowed in. And she doesn't care. Why is Gove back? Suspicious? Yes, it's suspicious that Michael Gove is back. See, Boris Johnson has probably run out of steam at this stage. I think perhaps some people within the Conservative Party feel that he has served his purpose. He got them an 80-seat majority. He got Brexit done. They would, of course, like for him to take the blame for the damage of Brexit. But if he's not there, it's very easy to blame him after the fact. Not Brexit. Space Pills, thank you so much for that super chat. Not Brexit, so you don't have to answer. But are you worried about the rise in popularity of the National Alliance in Italy? Wanted to send some spawns. Thank you so much for that super chat. At the moment, no, I'm not concerned about what's happening really in Italy, because the government is still reasonably supported. It still has a significant amount of support. Things are starting to return to some form of normality, so there is a concern that later on some fringe parties will try to get into government. Fortunately, we have proportional representation, or a model like it, in Italy, so it manages to keep some of these fringe parties out. You really can't get into power unless you form a coalition, and generally the coalitions dilute the influence of these smaller fringe parties. So the National Alliance are not a huge force at the moment, so I don't see them really causing a lot of damage in the foreseeable future. But I haven't really been following Italian politics as closely as I should be. It seems the main party on the right at the moment is the League Party, and they're always itching for power. Their goal is about power. They don't really have any policies. They just want power. They're a bit like the Conservatives in to a certain extent. And people continue to vote for them, and I don't know why. I can't wait for PMQs to start again. Wonder how... thanks so much for that super chat. I can't wait for the PMQs to start again. Wonder how he will reply to questions that the vaccine doesn't cut it anymore. He won't, actually. He won't answer those questions. That's the problem with Boris Johnson. He doesn't answer questions. Italy still has fascists and communists. It does. I met some... it was a very interesting experience. I actually... Can you be a fascist communist? Fascistic communist, probably. But yeah, I actually ran into some fascists who were doing a reenactment not far from me, the World War II reenactment, and they were reenacting, obviously, as the Italians. There were British reenactors, there were German reenactors. They were all Italians, but they were reenacting as different units from World War II, different countries from World War II. And we got into a conversation with some of these Italian ones, and it turns out that they were very disappointed that Italy swapped sides back in 1943, I think it was, 1944, when things were not going well for Italy, and when Italy abandoned the Nazis and joined the Allied side. They were not too happy about that. And I didn't want to dig too much deeper, because I say, okay, I don't want to get into discussion with these people, because they have very strange beliefs. I just let it go. I think I'll head to bed now. Good night, Tom. Thanks for coming on the stream tonight. I've got off on a bit of a tangent there. Sleep well. I was literally considering smuggling cheap cigs in just for me. The price are crazy. So guys, we're almost at the end of the stream. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who came on tonight. Of course, we have our one for the road before we finish. I want to say massive thank you to everyone who came on, smashed the like button, sent a super chat, greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for that. And of course, everyone who was moderated tonight, thanks for doing a wonderful job. I know we had a few trolls on, so they were swiftly dealt with. Lazio fans. They were fascists reenacting as fascists, not as fascists, but as Italian soldiers. So, because the fascists had been sort of incorporated into the Italian army at that stage. So, the only fascists you would see dressed in uniforms would be the sort of civilian ones who would go around beating people in the street. They were like the brown shirts in Germany at the time, but in the military they were incorporated completely. Mussolini claimed that he was a socialist. He always did, and was the last thing he said before dying. It was a strange sort of socialist. Thanks, Max, for a great presentation. Have a great night. Thanks to you, Paul, as well. So let's have our one for the road before we finish, our comedy moment. Hope you all enjoy it.
Oh, come on. One of us keeping her. I'm here for my poetry reading. Are you ready? We're not doing any poetry. There once was a woman from Nantucket whose hole was as big as a bucket. She said, "Is that a clam?" I said, "No, ma'am," and then I got a knife and I shot it.
Please stop ruining my voiceover.
There once was a woman...
No more.
There once was a man called Stan.
No, I don't want it.
Coke was like a leg.
No. Sit down. How you doing, Margaret? How you doing?
He cooked it in Coke and gave it a Coke.
I don't want any more of your poems. No more.
Fine, do you want to kill the miners then? What is it you're after?
Oh, come on.
That was a weird one. Okay. So guys, have a great week. I'll see you all next Friday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Usual time at 9:30 British Summer Time. So have a great week. And as Boris Johnson always says, stay safe, stay alert, stay safe. So as always, as he says, stay alert, be careful, make sure to wear a mask when you go in to buildings, maintain social distancing where possible. And I'll see you all on Friday. Have a great week. Take care. Good night, guys.